Good morning. How
Good
are
morning.
you?
I can't
Yeah,
complain. It's a beautiful day.
man, I got to tell you, I really like this, high 60s in the morning and low 80s in the afternoon. It's very
Oh,
pleasant.
love
Walking the beast is very pleasant these days.
it's
Cool.
wonderful. And if you get to walk on the grass barefoot, oh, it feels so good.
All right, today is our final day of this contract session we've been doing. We are going to cover, I'm going to share my screen because I want to get them all done today. My screen, and I want to share this one. There we go. All right. So we've covered all these addenda over the last couple of weeks, and today we're going to finish this column here, AA through GG, right? And the purpose we're doing this,
Absolutely.
am I sharing the screen properly? Yes, I am. The reason we're
Yes,
doing
you are.
it is because I want everybody to feel confident that they know what to use when they need to use it, and they don't have to go, I don't know, let me check, right? So let's just jump right in. So I'm going to use dot loop as my template and move this bar out of the way. And I should switch. Are you seeing dot loop now?
Perfect.
All right. So what I did is I went to Florida Interactive Forms. I went to templates, Florida Interactive Forms, and I typed in the word. So AA is called licensee personal interest in real property. I just typed in licensee. I see it's addendum AA, and it's provided by Century. It's the right form to use. So just make sure you're doing this because there is that personal interest form in the CRSP contract that doesn't match this one. So that being said, I won't say that again. So licensee personal interest in real property. Kathleen, in simple words, why does an agent have to disclose their status as a licensee?
Well, because you have to disclose your relationship. Either you're related to the buyer, you're related to the seller, you're buying it for yourself. It's required on the rules of professional conduct for ethics. It's part of our obligations as a realtor to disclose in transparency. That was a mouthful.
Back in real estate school, they used to say, because you have superior knowledge over the public, right? Like
That's
if you're
right.
a black belt, you have to tell somebody before you beat the shit out of them because you have superior knowledge over them.
Yeah,
Right? You can literally be sued by using excessive force if you didn't disclose that you are have superior knowledge.
yeah.
So it
And you
is
don't want
ways to do
over,
it.
overreaching. You want to avoid all of that.
Mhm. Two ways
Oh,
to
big
do it.
your hands.
You can check addendum AA and attach this form, or what I always do, I just put when I'm buying something, Craig Beggins, a licensed real estate broker. It's disclosed. So on the seller or buyer line, Craig Beggins, a licensed real estate broker in Florida, licensed
That's
Florida
right.
real estate broker.
Yep.
So that's all. You have superior knowledge over the public, and please remember to do this if you're buying property or selling property that you own, because you have to do it. So we don't
And
need to spend
Vicky's
a
got
lot
a
of time.
question too.
Oh yeah, what's that?
She raised her hand.
I think she's probably playing with her phone or something.
No, she might have a question. All right.
Well, she's welcome to type it into the chat. All
And
right.
also check the forms, making sure always that you have the most current one. It's very easy to accidentally click
Mhm.
the one from last year or the year before. It's another good point.
There you go. So Craig Beggins has an active or inactive real estate license, even if you're inactive and has a personal interest in the property, or is acting as a buyer or seller, and you write the property address in. So there you go. Simple, easy. Addendum BB is called binding arbitration. You know more about this than I do, so we'll let you talk about this one
Yeah.
because the contract has BB binding arbitration of Beggins form. Perfect. That's the one I want. So, what does the contract say about
Well,
this addendum? It says we have to go to arbitration, but it's not binding.
right. That's right. And in the contract, we have the section where it talks about mediation. Parties will
Mhm.
bear their own cost in the event of a dispute. And that's really important to remember because a lot of times let's say, we'll get a dispute over escrow and the seller wants the whole thing, the buyer wants the whole thing. We got to meet somewhere in the middle. And when we discuss these things with our respective parties, we always have to remind them you're going to have to bear your own costs for mediation and so forth. So we help them through the process.
And if they
Arbitration.
don't reach agreement at mediation, nothing
Correct.
happens.
That's right.
So they spent a lot of money to get nowhere. But if you wanted to, and I wouldn't recommend this because that's almost like practicing law. But if the buyer said or the seller said, "Hey, I want I don't want to get caught up in a negotiation over mediation or anything. I want binding arbitration, which means you'll hire an arbitrator, and what that arbitrator decides is binding. There's
Hmm.
no appealing it. You're surrendering your rights to a third party to decide for you. I have never seen this form used.
Don't like it. I don't use it. I don't want to be strong armed by an arbitrator who may or may not really understand the facts that are in front of them. I'm not saying that they don't, but I've seen some pretty poor arbitrations over the years.
Mhm.
So I lean in the direction of mediation.
And I like to make contracts that are easily acceptable. So when you start throwing stuff into a contract to make it more complicated, it alerts, raises flags. And maybe the seller says, no, I'm not sure I want to sign a contract with binding arbitration. You're throwing loopholes in for people to get out.
Yeah.
So know that it's there. If you had a buyer that was savvy enough to say, hey, wait, I want binding arbitration, you know it's here, you can do it. And it
Hmm.
says, if initialed here by both buyer and seller, any dispute not resolved pursuant to the mediation as provided for in paragraph 16B of this contract shall be settled by binding arbitration using a real estate industry arbitration rules of the American Arbitration Association, unless the parties mutually agree to use other arbitration rules. The arbitrator may not alter the terms of this contract nor award any remedy not provided for in this contract. The parties shall be allowed discovery in accordance with the Florida Rules of Civil Procedure. So that's it. That's just a lot of time on it. You're probably never going to use it, but if you had somebody who was really a stickler about this, you know that it's there. All right, CC is an interesting one, and this is for our Miami folks. So I'm going to type in Miami. And this is interesting because Miami does a lot of things differently. Miami-Dade Special Taxing District, Addendum CC. This is the right one. All right. Pretty simple, but it's got an awful lot of words for making a very simple statement. You want to read it?
Sure, because it focuses on tax codes and notice and the description and so forth. So
Well,
Miami did.
Miami-Dade County is a huge marketplace.
Oh, it is. It
I mean,
is.
it covers a lot of property.
It does. It does. My stepson lives in Kendall, so I'm real familiar with Miami. Seller notifies buyer that the property is or will be located within a special taxing district or will be subject to assessments levied for improvements or services reflected as non-ad valorem taxes on the property tax bill. Now, for people who have not seen a tax bill or they might be new to the industry, in the second part of your tax bill, you'll have the first part ad valorem, second part non-ad valorem. Just in case you've never seen a tax bill, that's a nice little refresher. Now, under section 18-20.2, Code of Miami-Dade, Florida requires sellers of residential property and new residential property defined in these sections to provide this disclosure to buyers under the following circumstances. That's key. One, seller of residential property, provide this buyer notice if the prior year's tax bill for the property reflected a special assessment levied for improvements or services within a special taxing district. Two, a seller of a new residential property shall provide this buyer the notice of existence of special taxing district or of the pendency of a petition to create a district.
I haven't seen that word in a long time. Pendency. All right. So
Yeah.
what is a special taxing district? That's something that's voted on by the population
Right.
to make improvements to an area that the
Mhm.
property owners agree to pay back via the property tax assessor's office by a non-ad valorem tax assessment on the tax bill. So just like a CDD is disclosed
Right.
in our regular markets as a non-ad valorem tax, a special tax. Maybe Miami was on well and septic, and they decided to bring in water and sewer,
Right.
right? And they put an assessment on every property to pay for the cost to bring in public water and sewer. That would be something that would be on the property probably for a long time, 10, 15,
Yeah.
20 years. And
Yeah.
it's something that buyers see. All this is really doing is calling it out. So if you're an agent in Miami, you got to look at the property tax bill and then tell the seller, hey, you have an obligation to disclose if there's a special taxing district. If there's not a special taxing district, you don't need to do anything, right?
Right. That's right.
The
That's
property which
right.
is subject to this transaction is located within, name the special taxing district will be on the tax bill.
Hmm.
Um, Created by Miami-Dade County or proposed to the Board of the County Commissioners for the purpose of providing local improvements and services in the nature of whatever they're doing. water and sewer, for example. Now,
Mm-hmm.
proposed. Now, can you imagine a seller being notified that they're going to get a special assessment of $3,000 a year to improve their water and sewer lines?
Mm-hmm.
And the seller says, screw it, I'm selling this property. I want to be subject to that. So he puts it on the market, he doesn't disclose it. Then a new buyer comes along and buys it and says, I didn't know about this special tax injection. You didn't disclose it. Now you got a lawsuit, or at least a complaint. So that's all this is for. And it's just when you're in Miami, look at the property tax bill and
Yes.
check down the list and say, oh, non-ad valorem, if it says special tax injection, you need to have the seller fill out the disclosure.
Mm-hmm.
The cost for
Absolutely.
Yeah, the last sentence is the cost for providing such improvements and services shall be paid by special assessments levied against the properties within the district. Said special assessments may be collected at the time and in the same matter as ad valorem taxes, which means it's paid on your tax bill.
Right.
And if you want to learn more, go here. Okay,
Well,
pretty
that's an
simple.
important point too, because a lot of times, and I've seen this with some of our agents that are learning that have just come on recently, don't use IMAP or secondary sources, what we call that, for your tax bill. Click the hyperlink and continue to get to the actual primary source, which is the tax office. Because remember, those secondary sources, IMAP and all those other sources, Realist, they pull from the public records. So you always want to go to the public record, which would be the actual taxing office itself.
Yeah, and if you don't know it, Google it. Like I know it's hillstax.org or it's hcpafl. Hillsborough County Property Appraisers, FL.org. So just Google Miami property appraiser or Miami tax collector, and boom. That's it. Pretty simple. If it says special, that's a research due diligence for a Miami-Dade County agent selling residential property only, not commercial. All right, DD. This is a new one that I don't really know a lot about. I haven't seen it, but I'm going to know about it now because we are selling short-term rental properties. Oops.
Okay. You're
Addendum
on.
DD, seasonal and vacation rentals after closing. So let's talk about that for a second. I had a vacation rental property and I
Right.
had bookings out a year from now, right? So
Right.
if I sold my property, I was tired of owning it and I wanted to sell it 2 months from now. I've got bookings in the future that I've committed to renting them for. And I probably did it through Airbnb or VRBO. So I've got an obligation to honor that rental. Right? So a buyer who's buying that house not for a vacation rental wants to move into it, they're going to have to move out for a week and let somebody come and stay. So should that something they should be notified about?
Absolutely. You're going to see this a lot on waterfront properties, beach properties, all over.
All over. My Jessica's husband Zach's parents came in to see the baby, and they rented an Airbnb in the heart of Tampa, right off West Shore. There's
Yeah.
Airbnbs and vacation rentals all over the place because Tampa Bay is a really cool destination. Because you're close to St. Pete, you're close to Tampa, you're close to Sarasota, you're close to Orlando. So somebody from
Sure.
Arkansas or anywhere up in the Midwest that really like the west coast of Florida, Tampa's a great place, whether it's waterfront or not, to have vacation rentals. And we're seeing more and more. But you as an agent need to have top of mind awareness with the consumer, the seller, and you know it's being used as a vacation rental. Find out how many commitments they have into the future and if they can one break them or not. So let's see what this says. Um, I'll read A and you read B. The property is or may be subject to seasonal or short-term vacation rentals for occupancy. A, check one. Seller may or may not, after effective date and prior to closing, enter into new or renewal seasonal or vacation rental occupancy agreements at market rate and terms for occupancies for the property by third parties after closing. So am I going to allow the seller to keep booking it? Am I going to use it as a vacation rental? Or am I going to move into it? So if I'm going to move into it, I don't want any future bookings. So no, he
Right.
may not. If he is, yeah, please book it as much as you can. I'm going to use it for a cash flowing tool anyway. In the box for May above, if the box for May is checked, seller may do so only with buyer's prior approval of the rental terms and conditions or without buyer's approval. So yeah, you
Mm.
can rent it out, but don't go cheapening it, lowering the rate to $300 a night when I'm supposed to get $600 a night. So I would probably recommend only with buyer's prior approval. So the seller gets a tenant, says, hey, would you want me to take this one? Yeah, take it. Okay. Seller shall, at or prior to closing, provide buyer with a copy of any new or renewal occupancy agreements for occupancy of the property after closing, which are entered into by seller after the effective date. Okay. So you have to give them copies of what your agreements are so they know what they're getting themselves into. And then you can do B.
Sure. If the property has seasonal occupancy agreements in place, which were obtained pursuant to the terms of a property management agreement, seller shall provide the buyer a copy of all property management agreements within 5 days after the effective date. If terms of any agreements provided by seller pursuant to the terms herein that are not acceptable to buyer shall have 5 days after receipt of such agreements to terminate the contract in accordance with the terms of paragraph 6B. Unless this contract is terminated, buyer shall have be subjected to the terms of the property management agreements for the duration of the occupancy agreements in place at the time of closing. This provision shall survive closing. This is very important because you need to know how much you're going to be spending on property management, the fees, additional costs. Is it $19 to replace a washcloth? I mean, all that stuff adds up fast. So this is very important. As is
And
the
let's
other.
say the property manager secured leases into the future, they're going to be paid even if you don't honor those leases.
That's right.
And we
That's
have companies like, what
right.
is it called? iTrip Vacation Rentals. There are some pretty sophisticated short-term vacation rental companies, and their contracts are pretty solid. So the
They are.
takeaway is here, you got to just be aware, and that's part of this whole training series, is I want you to be aware. So if you come across a property that has been used as a vacation rental, ding, 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 because this is a relatively new form.
Yeah, there's a lot.
2021 is when it came
There,
out.
yeah, yeah, there's a lot to it.
Okay, you guys clear on this one?
Yeah, that's why make sure if you don't specialize in this, get with somebody who does because this is tricky territory.
And the best thing you can do really is when you're writing a contract, quickly scan all these and say, is this relative to me in this contract? This
Right.
is almost like a checklist. Do I need this? Do I not need this?
Correct.
And some of these take research, like this PACE disclosure, the next one. I'm going to go back here. I'm going to type in PACE. Voila. EE is what I'm looking for. Comprehensive rider to the residential contract, March, Century 21. We're all good. Let's go look at that one. This is really, there are some brokers that, wait, what did I do?
EE by accident.
I did.
Oh,
No,
wait.
I checked the
It
wrong
is
one.
right. Yeah, it happens. Yeah. You need the clean energy one, I think. That one, that one there, I
Well, no,
think.
it says EE. What's going on here?
Huh.
Property assessed clean energy.
I haven't used this, so this is good for me too.
Okay. PACE is an acronym for Property Assessed Clean Energy. So there are
Right.
special financing terms for people that will improve their property and make it more energy efficient, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it's repaid through their tax bill as a non-ad valorem tax. So when you go again to the tax bill and you look at the non-ad valorem, you'll see a PACE loan, right? And that goes
Yes.
with the property, just like a special taxing district, similar to a special taxing district. So it's funny because you're over here and my camera's over here, so I'm not sure where I'm looking. So a buyer has the obligation to pay property taxes once they close. And if they're paying for stuff in addition to the property taxes, they should know about it, right?
Absolutely.
All right. So the qualifying improvements disclosure. Qualifying improvements programs provide financing to property owners for improvements to their real property for various permanent improvements. Repayment of the debt is through annual non-ad valorem assessments on the property, which are disclosed on the annual property tax bill. Blah, blah, blah. Um, Florida statute states that the seller shall give the buyer a written disclosure statement in the form set forth below, at or below the time the seller executes a contract to purchase property for which a non-ad valorem assessment has been levied under this certain section and has an unpaid balance due pursuant to section 163.10081. A list of qualifying improvements to residential property may be found at section 168 Florida statutes. Yeah, somebody's going to look that up. The property
Mhm.
being purchased is subject to an assessment on the property to do. The assessment is for qualifying improvements to the property and is not based on the value of the property. You are encouraged to contact the property appraiser's office to learn more about this and any other assessments you may be provided by law. I know some brokers that are making this a mandatory form at the listing agreement. I am not doing that because that's such a small percentage of the properties that we do. But you need to put an antenna up. Oh, because you really need to look at the property tax bill of the property you're going to list.
Mhm.
And you should
Like,
look at the property tax bill for the property you're going to buy because the seller's agent or the seller may not have disclosed what they need to disclose. Right?
and there's a lot of new window programs that are under this program that's going to pop up from time to time. Those are the
Yep.
kind of questions you ask when you see all these brand new windows. Wow, these windows are beautiful. When did you have those put in? Oh, I had a program. Ding, 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 ding.
What did that cost? Oh, I didn't. There's nothing out of pocket. They just,
Right.
oh, nothing's free, people.
No, it's somebody else's lunch if it's free.
Yeah. And they kind of go by neighborhood, right? A good salesman gets involved and just takes over a neighborhood and he says, hey, I just did Kathleen's house. She's going to get all new windows and doors. It's not going to cost her anything but a couple $1,000s a year in her tax bill.
Yeah,
Oh, really? Oh, well, Kathleen did it. I'll do it too. And they go down the street and they hook up everybody up. So
right
that's
on.
how it works. So that's just something you got to, once again, antenna goes up. Is this something I need
Yep.
to worry about? All right.
Yep.
EE. Oh, now we're going to get to FF and GG. And
Mm.
then we will be done with this. So FF is the credit related to buyer broker compensation. This is my favorite one, probably the one you're going to use most often, right?
Yes. Yes.
All right. I've been talking a lot. You can take this one. So
Sure,
once again,
sure.
I got to make this. I still have these questions coming to me all the time. And
Me.
who did I write back yesterday? Um, they were talking about the listing broker not offering enough compensation. I said, it doesn't matter what the seller offers. You have a contract with your buyer to pay you, and your buyer is making their offer on the property contingent upon the seller paying you. So
Yeah.
that's really in a nutshell what this says. But let's just go through it. You start.
Sure. And these addendums are critical because unless you're working in an organization that's charity, you want to get paid, right?
Hmm.
And we don't want to be throwing in additional terms in the additional terms section asking for closing cost and compensation, wrapping all that in there together. When you have an addendum that covers your compensation,
Yeah.
please, please, please use it.
Let me say it this way real fast. If everything was a cash transaction, it doesn't matter, right? Seller wants 200,000 up, $400,000 for the property. Buyer agrees to pay you 3%. That's 12,000 bucks. Seller says, okay, I wasn't planning on paying a broker, so I'll sell it to you for $412,000. Who's paying the commission? The buyer, because he was going to get the house for 400,000. I was getting it for 412,000.
Yeah, you
Right? That's
negotiate
all
it
it
in.
is. It's in
Yeah,
that it's in. So if the seller is not planning on paying a commission, then he's probably going to add it to the price of the house.
yeah, yeah.
Like my builder for Hammock Bay, Craig, I'll pay whatever the buyer broker agreement says. If the buyer broker says what 3%, no problem. I'm going to add it to the price of my house
Right,
because I'm not
right.
budgeting in a commission. That's the way he's choosing to do it. So you got to make sure you get a buyer broker agreement with your customer. And most sellers will gladly pay it because they want the buyer, but they might
Yeah,
add it to the price of the house.
yeah,
But
yeah,
everything's negotiable,
yeah.
right?
Yes, and don't let co-brokes text you. I'm adding this. I'm asking this. Blah 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 on what they want on commissions and whatever, because the lawyers are out there circling, and they're looking for any excuse to nail us for discussing commissions. And text messages are open, fair game. So don't do it. Don't be texting back and forth terms of the contract. Stick to your email. You'll thank me in the morning. Addendum FF, credit to buyer's broker compensation. It's related, that is. Buyer has entered into a separate brokerage agreement, which may be amended. That's key. Remember that. You can always amend it down, but you can't amend it up. A buyer broker agreement, which is not incorporated herein by reference with Center 21 Beggins, that would be us, the big dog. Yes, you
And
insert
go
the
ahead and
name.
write Century 21 Beggins dash your name if you want. Because it's the agreement between the brokerage. But if we have this agreement with the brokerage, I don't know who the agent is, and there's no place for you to sign it. So put your
That's true.
name, please.
That's very, very true.
All right. So
Very
why is
true.
it not incorporated herein? Because it's private information.
Yeah,
Seller's not
exactly.
sharing their listing agreement with the buyer. The
No,
buyer's not sharing their buyer broker agreement with the seller. But there is
right,
one.
right.
Okay. Then go ahead.
No problem. At closing, seller agrees to credit buyer the sums described below for which disclosure purposes only the parties agree is related to buyer's obligation under the buyer's broker agreement to pay all or a portion of the buyer's broker compensation.
Mhm.
Click one below. Box A, that would be a percentage of the purchase price, or B, a flat fee amount, or C, a percentage of the purchase price plus maybe an MLS fee, that sort of thing.
Or
Um,
a transaction fee.
or a transaction fee. Very good. Very good. Yes. Yes.
So I
In
would
the
check
event,
C, 3% plus $325.
right,
Right.
right.
Because guys,
Yes.
I'm sorry,
Yes.
we're just cracking down on that because some of you are sliding on that. And if you're not collecting it, we're gonna have to charge you because we need to get our transaction fees. Right. We already have to, we can't get them on VA. We can't get them on
No.
new construction. So we're missing a lot. And I
No.
wish I could just take, 1,800 transactions times $325 and say that's what our transaction fees are. But I can't because I have so many loans are VA or so many are new construction. So we just have to make sure we're collecting that. So check box this one, 3% plus $325 because that's what your BBA should be saying.
It's essential. We need to collect those fees. Yeah. And they're not junk fees. Don't let people tell you that they are. They're not.
No.
In the event that the credit described above exceeds the amount allowed by buyer's lender for contributions, then to the extent permitted by buyer's lender, check one. If no box is checked, then the balance of the credit will be paid to seller directly to buyer broker, or the credit will be reduced to the maximum amount allowed by the buyer's lender. Now that's a mouthful. So if your lender comes back and says you're only allowed to get X amount of dollars from the buyer, and you'll see that in VA or FHA loans more than likely, that's where this is really critical.
So let's say
The
the
right,
buyer's lender, because they're getting closing costs, they're only allowed to go to 3% or whatever their limit is based
correct.
on the loan they have. It's not enough to pay us, then the seller is going to pay the buyer broker directly,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the box you check,
Right.
this one here.
Yes. Yes.
Because we don't want our credit to be reduced to the maximum amount by the buyer's lender. That's just not what our agreement says.
No, we don't.
Check
Uh-uh.
this box.
No. This rider FF shall not modify the buyer broker agreement or any other compensation agreement made between seller, buyer, seller's broker, and buyer's broker. Nothing in the addendum FF requires that the buyer or buyer broker to provide a copy, just like you said a moment ago, of the buyer broker agreement to the seller or seller broker. And that's essential to remember.
And that little bolded sentence has to be in all of our commission agreements. Commissions, broker commissions are set by law and are fully negotiable, are not set by
That's
law, they're fully negotiable. All right.
right, right.
I'm just
Yeah,
going to be a weenie here. We want 3%. That's just our choice of compensation. If you want to charge less, go work someplace cheaper because it costs us a lot of money to run the ship that we run. So ask for 3%. If you can't get it, we'll talk about it at the time of contract, but always ask for 3, right? If you can only negotiate 2, okay, we'll deal with that. But at least ask for 3 because you're never going to get 3 if you ask for 2. Does that make sense?
makes perfect sense.
So
Absolutely.
ask for 3% plus your 325. The seller is going to pay it and it's negotiable. So let's say the house is on the market for 550 and you offer 520 and you ask for closing costs and you ask for compensation. What if the seller counters at 535? Which is a counteroffer. You just negotiate back and forth. But don't feel like you're
Right.
caving in and you have to defend the need for this. Oh, it's 929. Okay, you guys know about FF and GG. Let's do GG real quick. GG is called seller's agreement, and this one's a little harder to
Yeah.
find.
Yeah. I call GG the weasel out agreement.
Okay, here's GG. So I typed in, it says seller's agreement, blah, blah, blah. I just typed in seller, but I had to scroll down to find this one. It's a little harder to find. I don't like this one as much, but it's okay. It's just more complicated because it's making the offer
I don't like
subject to.
GG because of, yeah, that's why I don't like it.
Okay, I'll read this one for you. This contract is contingent upon the seller's broker and buyer's broker, or seller and buyer's broker, executing a compensation agreement with terms acceptable to buyer. So it's similar to FF, but it's throwing in another document that somebody has to sign. Either XYZ Realty signs that they're going to pay us a commission, which would be dependent on their listing agreement. Is the seller paying the buyer broker, or is the seller's broker paying the buyer's broker? This one just throws a lot of mud into the water. Or seller and buyer's broker, either one, within so many days. So now I've taken the house off the market. I've got a contingency upon some party signing a compensation agreement with this buyer's broker. And if they don't sign an agreement that's agreeable, then the contract dies. So why wouldn't you just use FF and ask the seller to make it a condition of the offer? If left blank 3 days after the effective date,
Yep.
if the compensation agreement described herein is not executed and delivered within the time period, then buyer may, within 3 days, deliver written notice to seller terminating this contract in which the deposit shall be refunded to buyer, thereby releasing buyer and seller from all further obligations under this contract. If buyer fails to timely deliver said written notice, seller, this contingency shall have no further force or effect. All right, so I'm just thinking this through. So let's say you don't, well, you never should not have a buyer broker agreement because under the settlement terms, you can't work with a buyer unless you have a compensation agreement.
Right.
So I guess it's saying if you didn't have a compensation agreement, it's subject to you getting one within 3 days. So
I don't even
maybe
see the use in this. Yeah, no, I hate this. I hate this one.
maybe you're at an open house and the buyer comes in and they want to make an offer and you don't have a buyer broker agreement with them. Then you could use GG in that case. I just still use FF. It's just easier. But guess what, Kathleen? The only one left is called other. What would an other be?
It's true. Oh, you could put in additional reports.
Maybe you've got
Um,
included items that are not
there's a
referenced in the contract.
yeah, a list. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So you would call
Inventory.
that addendum, check the box, call it addendum one, and then title the form addendum
Yeah.
one, write in your special terms, have the parties initial it. And I'm pretty sure, let me just double check, pretty sure, like my contract is switching, right? I'm pretty sure there's an
Not
other
yet.
or
You're
blank addendum.
and you know at
Blank.
your open houses, keep up a stack of forms, your touring agreement, whatever, all the different agreements, keep them on hand. So if something comes up and somebody wants to write an offer, you got all that right there in the event, God forbid, the internet goes down. I'm a believer in keeping a stack of that stuff on hand.
Mhm. And then when the internet
And you
comes
don't
back
need
up, scan
GG.
it. Yeah. When the internet comes back
Yeah.
up, scan it
Yeah.
into
It's
dot loop.
easy.
And it's pretty simple. I don't see a blank
Yeah.
addendum. Maybe
Yeah.
it's under Florida Interactive Forms. What else would we called? Um, BLA. We've got
Oh,
some
yeah.
Beggins
Blanket.
forms.
Yeah.
There's no blank addendum. That's from Marty Ryan
Yeah.
Holmes. Um, Blank document for notes. If you want to just take those, Andrew, just put those in there. Uh,
Yeah.
I remember seeing a blank form. I just don't know what it's called. But anyway, you take a Word document or a Google sheet, Google document, and type addendum one, call it whatever you want to call it, and then check box other and write in addendum one. That brings that addendum into the contract. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That, people, is where's Kathleen? Go, there she is. That we've covered the entire contract and we did it in just about 30 minutes. So, well, no, we did it like 6 sessions of 30 minutes. But that's your go-to thing. So these will be labeled in Beggins University. So if you want to see a certain addendum question, they'll be labeled out which ones are which. So that will conclude our contract. So we'll get more into real contract issues as we get into next week's Master of the Contract Friday. Thank you and have a great week and
Oh,
enjoy this spring weather. Man, is it nice out. So
oh, it's
that is
beautiful.
all
Hugs
I
and
got for
love,
today.
everybody.
All right. whatever that
Well,
is.
for the morning.
All right. Happy
See
Friday. Bye all.